Fireside chat on reinventing the organizational structure for building a resilient workforce in the future's hybrid workplace. I introduce our moderator, Mr. Ayush Sharma, Head of Learning and Development at Honda Cars India Limited. Mr. Sharma is a human resource professional with over 12 years of experience in learning and development, talent management, business partnering, and performance management across industry leading organizations. Also introduce our co-panelists, Ms. Vinita Mittal, Director of People and Culture at Great Thornton Bharat, Mr. Gautam Duggal, Director of Global Talent Management and Learning at MasterCard, and Mr. Abhishek Roy, Director HR, India and Southeast Asia, McCormick and Company. Over to you, Mr. Ayush Sharma.
Good. Now, it is my absolute pleasure, and I'm absolutely blown away to be here among such august audience, and it is an absolute delight for me. And I would like to invite my guest for this fireside chat. I have Ms. Vinita Mittal from Grand Thornton Bharat, Mr. Gautam Duggal from MasterCard, and Mr. Abhishek Roy from McCormick and Company. Now, before we move forward, I have a question for all of you. How many of you think 5 to 6 years ago, making a request to your manager about working from home invited not so nice responses in return? Now, I can see a lot of individuals here. They believe that making a request to their managers from working from home 6 to 7 years ago wasn't really a great experience. But now, today, I am sure we all know that hybrid is the in thing today. We know it is something which is the future as well as the present. And that is why I'm so happy that today we will be talking about something which is very important. We'll be talking about reinventing your organizational structure for building a resilient workplace in the future's hybrid workforce. Now, my first question is to Gautam, and we would like to know what, according to you, are the major considerations for organizations when reevaluating their organizational structure for a hybrid workplace model?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I can see the energy in the room is really high. So thank you so much for bearing with us. There is a direct correlation between how people will show up at work with L&D. I represent a business which is spread across 52 countries, 6,000 people, and working remotely is not new news to us. There have been times when we've tagged certain roles saying you need to be in the office. I think this started when we hit COVID. Beyond COVID also it has sustained. There has to be a very, I would say, a very thoughtful push towards how you align future roles, because their growth, their interaction, their everything to do with L&D, everything to do with their career progressions is directly linked to how they show up at work. And let me give you an example. We had a couple of people who were in our IT team, because your network has to work, right? When you guys were in the lockdown, and you were ordering food, or let's say you were ordering on Flipkart, your payments were getting processed, yes or no? No, yes, yes, they were getting processed, right? Which means our network was working, which means that there were people in the office wearing hazmat suits and being in the office for 9 hours or 10 hours. Now, if I ask them to continue doing that for a long period of time, most likely I will see a very high attrition number. Now, as an HR professional, it's my job to make sure that people are not, only one section of people are not getting impacted, it's everybody. We have a return to office policy. We are mandatory 3 days back in the office with a Monday and Friday. You would think there is a lot of backlash. Apparently there's not. People are just happy that one, I get to go back into the office and spend quality time with friends, and two, it's not just one section of people who are required to be in the office all day long. So when it will come to maybe in the future, think about L&D playing a role, let's stop thinking about just virtual. Let's start thinking about hybrid, because people do want to come back. That's what the consensus is. And I'll leave you with that thought.
Now, Gautam, I would also like to know from you, do you think a more flatter organization structures also help in designing a better hybrid workplace model?
For one generation, yes. For the other generation, no. So generation like mine who are really thinking about getting to the next level and leading the organization, the flatter structure doesn't work for us. But for younger generation, it would definitely work. So it's completely, I think, individual responses to it. There cannot be one, compass with which you gauge everybody.
Well said. Now, my next question is to Abhishek, and I'm really excited to know how can leaders ensure that the new organizational structure support resilience and adaptability in the face of future uncertainties?
Thank you. First of all, good afternoon, everybody, and very happy to be here. Getting to the question, see, what's changing? He spoke about a world where it's most of the people were always working from the office, IT, ITES, banking, structure. I come from a manufacturing organization. So even during the 3.5 years of the COVID, I had a section of my workforce who were coming in and going out every day from the plant. So, and the beauty of it is, we now have hybrid working even in the plant. Of course, not on the shifts, not on the lines, there you can't. But within the plant also there is hybrid. So what has changed? Obviously, mindsets have changed, right? And who has helped that mindset? That's where, if I have to give a idea about it, it's all about how a leader is driving the culture in the organization. At the end of the day, it's the ways of working. You said organizations will be flatter. Yes, organizations are becoming flatter, may not be because we are hybrid, but because of various other reasons. And in a hybrid culture, when you have to drive adaptability, engagement, resilience, you need to ensure that your ways of working are much stronger. And that's where the leader can play a big role. To start with, the leader himself or herself needs to come in and say that, need to empower the team, need to go in and say, we are not victims of this change, but we are the ones who are going to shape this change. Once you do these two things, then the rest of the journey becomes easy. Then you go and empower your team, ensure that they are mature enough to use that empowerment well, and learning will play a big role into it, because you need to push a lot of learning, where someone needs to understand how do you work across technology. Technology is going to play a big role to connect a hybrid organization. Someone will be in the plant, to give you an example, we are in the food industry, so we run through a lot of audits day in and day out. We ran through a food audit in our Thailand organization, where the auditor was doing the audit by ensuring that through a VI. So we had the camera on, and someone within the organization was taking that camera across the whole operations, because they cannot come in. The government is not allowing them to come in. So AI technology played a role, but that meant, from a learning perspective, we had to ensure we have the capability, and we ensure that this person who were driving it were capable enough to do it. So learning, empowerment, and the ways of working.
Yeah, absolutely. Great thoughts, Abhishek. I would also like to know from you, do you think if an organization is agile towards change and also has this massive ability to absorb shocks along the way, also goes a long way in building resilience?
Of course. And some of it is intuitive. Like I can ask each of the organizations who are represented in the hall today, all of them changed, all of them survived. There are a few organizations who had to take certain actions, but by and large, wherever there was a capability to absorb, because how the leadership stepped up during that challenge meant. To give you an example, in the middle of 2021, when COVID-2 hit India so drastically, we were running at 100% full capacity in our India factory, because the need for food was very high, and we work in a lot of ready to eat and ready to cook space. Even at that time, the leadership understood the challenge on the ground. We knew that in every family there is someone or the other who is struggling with this challenge of COVID. So we said, for the next 10 days, no one needs to come to the office. we understand, we will manage, but the employees come first. And that's where the leadership mentality, the leadership mindset comes into play to build resilience in the organization. After that, we saw the employees contributing their bit. So when you give, there's a reciprocal action from the employees as well.
Yeah. So I know you work in one of the FMCG brands, PepsiCo, for many years, more than 7 years to be precise. So were you able to implement some of the measures over there as well?
Yeah, the challenges of the pre-COVID world was very different, right? But even in that world, PepsiCo had its own challenge when we were trying to drive a lot of things in India. Learning played a very big role. I used to work in my days with learning. We have a franchise part of the business in PepsiCo, and then there is the internal operations. And between those two, there had to be very good and deep collaboration. So a lot of effort went, and we used to partner with our franchise organizations to drive a lot of learning for them, to ensure that we bring what PepsiCo knows to their organization.
Great thoughts. Thank you so much, Abhishek. Moving on, we all know a well-executed hybrid workplace can be a magnet which brings people together and helps us work better than ever before. Now, I would like to ask Vinita, what, according to her, are the best practices for developing and implementing policies that support a resilient workforce in a hybrid workplace?
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here again. So I think we heard about how hybrid came into the being. It was an offshoot of the workplace evolution that we saw through a crisis that we all navigated. The objective of hybrid, that's what organizations are trying to achieve, is how do you bring the best of both the worlds? That's the best of the remote working and also in person. So that principle with which the hybrid workforce or hybrid workplace is coming is the one that needs to be kept in mind when organizations are looking to develop and implement policies. And the first one that is going to be important is flexibility. The flexibility has to be the cornerstone of all the policies that are being developed to make hybrid work. Let me delve deeper into what flexibility entails. Today, organizations are looking at where part of flexibility. Where do you operate from? And that's what hybrid today means, right? Whether you're working from office or you're working from home or anywhere. The idea is how do you accommodate varying needs of employees? And I think we all are working towards making hybrid work on the where part. But there are two more aspects which hasn't yet caught up in India, but we see many organizations adopting that in the West. So the second aspect is the when. How can there be flexibility in the time, the work hours? So having focused hours, collaborative hours. How do you provide that flexibility to employees to work as per their needs, and of course taking into account the organizational purpose as well. The third part, which is interesting, is the how of it. How can employees work flexibly? Today, it is the standard 8 to 9 hours, which is what, I mean, the law also mandates that you have to work, and everybody logs in around 8:30, 9 o'clock, and they sign off around 6:30. But there are, and it is one person working, right? So as an individual or as a team member, you have got certain tasks and you have to deliver that. There's a concept that is, and I was actually on a call to understand this, which is called job sharing. How a particular job can actually be shared by two individuals. While it sounds interesting, it sounds different, but it is working. There are organizations which are trying to see how they can provide more engagement to people by dividing their responsibilities. So there is a lot more to flexibility when we are, looking into it. Another aspect of flexibility, which I want to share from my experience, is a format that we all heard about last year, which was 4-day work week. There was some buzz around it, and we saw the research and studies which said that there is a positive correlation between the 4-day work week and financial results, performance, productivity, etc. At Grant Thornton Bharat, we also experimented with 4-day work week. In fact, I was leading this pilot, We did this for a duration of 5 months, and we piloted it with certain teams. Uh, while results were pretty encouraging, and we are still in the process of deliberating as to what would be the next step, but the idea was to be open, agile, and experiment with evolving workplace trends to see what works well for you and what doesn't. So I think other than flexibility, it's also about the organization's ability to be agile and being open to embracing these trends. I mean, there's so much I can talk about flexibility, but one thing that I feel is flexibility should not be a standalone, element. You bring in hybrid and you say, yeah, look, we are providing flexibility by having a hybrid workplace. Within hybrid, there are so many models that are working, like what Gautam mentioned. In his organization, it is a mandatory number, not just mandatory number of days, but also specified days when individuals are supposed to come. My firm, we have adopted flexibility in everything. Flexibility is the principle in all policies. So today, our hybrid is also ultra flex. You come to office when there is a requirement. As a people manager, if there is a learning and development program, you have to have team meetings, collaboration. You decide and you come to office with your team. That's where we are right now. We also changed our dress code to get flexibility there. So we operate in a consulting domain, and you all can, imagine that how do you perceive or how would you see consultants in formals, right, in business formals. We moved to ultra flex attire. We said, let's bring flexibility to wherever we can, because we trust our people and we'll empower them to make the right choices. So today, our dress code is also ultra flex. So the message I think I would give for organizations to really make hybrid work, they need to adopt flexibility as much as they can across the realm of various spheres for it to really work, in entirety. Other than flexibility, two more aspects which I think are pretty obvious, but they're so much important, is having clear communication channels. While whether you have a hybrid workplace or not, it is so much obvious, right? But when you have a distributed workforce, people working in office for some time, working remotely, it is so important to give them those transparent, lines of communication. So for example, having digital open house, it is something which we had never experimented, and COVID actually, pushed us to, be connected with our people. And it is so amazing to see that you are reaching a wider talent pool by just connecting with them remotely. Right? So you run those formats, both physically and digitally. Lastly, the foundation to any hybrid workplace is the infrastructure and technology support, which Abhishek also talked about. It goes without saying that during COVID, companies which turned it around or which had these tools in place were the ones who could navigate it so quickly and actually saw productivity gains. So this infrastructure needs to be in place if we really want to make hybrid work.
Really appreciate it, Vinita. Getting hybrid right is really hard, but really nailed it. Thank you so much. Now, moving on, it has been observed autonomy is essential for individuals to feel empowered and take ownership of their work. On the other hand, we also want teams to work efficiently for a common goal. So in order to get deeper insights to this, my next question is for Gautam, and I would like to know, how do you balance these opposite forces of autonomy and collaboration within teams in a hybrid workplace setting?
So the balance scorecard of the team remains the same, right? That's where there is no autonomy. Everybody has to have the same goals. It's how they approach these goals and the timelines. That is where you could have autonomy. I don't see any point where we've heard many, HR stalwarts talk about give them the power to choose, give them the power to make the right choices. That's about the execution. That is not about what they will achieve, right? Once the goal is set, it is our job as a leader, as HR people, as L&D to make sure that people go back to that objective. And they're able to efficiently work. For a lot of time, so I'm non-HR coming into HR, there was a lot of time when we would simply blame it on HR saying, this is HR stuff. You could do it later, let's do the business work first, right? I've seen these lines blur a lot now, where the HR folks are now talking business language. So when we are designing our talent programs, L&D programs, different initiatives, hybrid setups, you have to go back to that core. People respond to similar messages, whether they're here or whether they're elsewhere. They're probably sitting in Indore, they're probably sitting in, I don't know, Italy, but they respond to the same message if it's reinforced. It is, again, I think I'll go back to the point that my co-panelist made is, you'll have to, as a leader, make that right choice. Now, I'll share an example. I have a team in Tel Aviv, and we were very happy when we got that team because, you know, I've never worked with Israelis before, and they're brilliant at technology, right? I'm not so brilliant. And they were designing a, I think, offsite, and they all went to a spa, and I'm like, wow, this is an offsite. I would have gone to a park and, you know, jumped around with a ball around me and saying, okay, we are doing team building. We all went to a spa. But then the war hit them. Now think about a team where the husbands, the wives are getting drafted for army service. And they're on calls and you're talking about, let's figure out the time when you work. No, that is where you give autonomy. Let them decide how much work, to what extent can they do. Then the split roles work, right? But again, like I'll say this again and again and again, when you talk about putting one canvas for everything, it's not going to work. It has to be customized based on situation, people, country, you know, background, experience, age, generation.
Really like the fact, Gautam, that you talked about that it cannot be a one-size-fits-all. And besides, I believe you also think leveraging the strengths of your team is also equally important. Okay, now moving on. In today's work environment, where the lines between the office and home are increasingly getting blurred, maintaining high levels of employee engagement and well-being is imperative. But it also has its own challenges, as the lack of social connection and increased distance does not help, and employees may find hard to connect with the values and goals of an organization. So I would like to ask Abhishek that how does a hybrid workplace model impact employee engagement, productivity, and well-being?
Yeah, good question, and it's a challenge for all of us in the room from the HR organization and also the leadership organization. At the same time, we also need to acknowledge that hybrid work is going to stay. And in that scenario, Vinita spoke about flexibility. At the same time, Gautam spoke about it's a multi-model, right? So it is horses for courses, and that's where the role of the leader comes into play. To be aware what works for the team. That's where you need to ensure that you are aware of yourself, aware of what is available within the organization, and what is the capability and the maturity of the team that you are handling. A highly mature and capable team, you can do wonders even where they are not coming into the office. But in a manufacturing world, again, in the lower rungs of the organization, you need to get those people come back to the office. And that's where HR can play a huge role, because people will not come in because you are asking them to come in. You'll need to build that volunteership, that attachment to be in the office. And to give you an example, in our organization, we do something, we call it Wow Wednesday. So we were seeing in a hybrid, so we are a 50-50, we ask people to come only 3 days or three days a week. In that scenario, we were seeing people are coming in on the Monday and the Friday, but they don't want to come on the middle of the week. How do you drive it? We said, let's create a pull. So most of our engagement activities are happening on a Wednesday. So it's a very conscious decision, and it's happening not only within the India, but across multiple countries. So we will know every Wednesday in every location, there will be something happening where it could be engagement, it could be a fun activity, it could be a meeting, whatever it is, it's happening on a Wednesday. So everyone knows if I'm not going to the office on Wednesday, I'm missing out on something. So you're creating a pull. In this world, no, mandates will not work. It's all about how you're creating a pull for the organization, for the employees.
Amazing to know about the Wow Wednesday concept, because we all are familiar with Wow Friday or Wow Saturday. So it's definitely something new. Thank you so much, Abhishek. Now, we all would agree a hybrid workplace needs a transformational strategy and one that is intentional and objective. However, this strategy will remain incomplete if we do not take into account its impact on equity and inclusivity. So it has also been found that the organizations that truly have an inclusive work culture witness a more robust growth than their peers. So I would like to know from Vinita, how can organizations ensure equity and inclusivity in a hybrid work environment, considering different employee preferences and needs?
Yeah, so I think diversity, equity, inclusion, we all have been hearing about it. There's a lot of work which is going in this space, and it is actually regardless of hybrid workplace. You know, you got to make it work, but hybrid just necessitates the need to a lot more extent. So equity, we all know it's a fair treatment. How do you ensure that everybody in your firm has access to the same opportunities and resources? And when you are working with a workplace, having a distributed workforce, working in a hybrid setup, there are a lot of ways you need to ensure that they are being given equitable opportunities. So for example, when you are, like Abhishek talked about engagement programs, etc. So running engagement programs in just one format would not work. You have to run it in hybrid formats. Even training programs for that matter, because that's how you can have your employees connected and stay more informed. I'll just give a quick example. We are looking to launch a networking program for women as part of our DEI agenda, and the first thought that came to our mind was that a networking program is supposed to be a physical, right, event, because that's where you see the benefit of a networking session. You're able to develop a deeper connect with somebody you really want to, have that interaction with. But then we said, that's not from an equity, principle. If we want to keep that equity principle, and that's what we are trying to do at the firm, having that in all decision-making processes. So we said, let's run it in hybrid formats. We are going to have some physical sessions, some virtual sessions. So that's what equity would look like when you are running so many of these programs and various other processes. Inclusion is the behavior. And when you are managing a team as a people manager, it is so much hard. While I'm also driving diversity, equity, inclusion, I'm also a people manager. And I have teams who are either working remotely or they are in person at an office location, and I'm connecting with them. So unconscious biases, I think, is something that we all know plays a very important role. How do you tackle those biases when you're dealing with a hybrid workplace? I'll just talk about quickly on proximity bias, because that's what is more relevant in the hybrid workplace. As a manager, you tend to be more drawn towards those team members who are seen more frequently in office, and not those people who are, working remotely. So taking care that those biases do not reflect in various processes, right from project allocation to performance management, and day-to-day meetings, when you're doing meetings and connecting with them virtually, ensuring that you give opportunity for everyone to contribute and not just people who are sitting around you in the office location. So I think these are some of the ways which can make equity and inclusion so much real in a hybrid workplace.
Thank you. Really appreciate your point of view, Vinita. And I know we are badly behind the schedule. Naveen is continuously looking at us. So I would like to conclude very quickly in the next few seconds. It was a great discussion with the elite panelists. And we talked about some new concepts, such as 4-day work week, Wow Wednesday, which is something I will definitely take a note of. We also talked about how we can become a more diverse, more inclusive organization, or in fact become a torchbearer for setting up some of the best practices in at the hybrid workplace. We also talked about how we can build more resilience into our everyday work when we are working in the L&D framework. We also understood how we can, we also got to know that how we can have more sharper focus on goals as well, and bring more accountability to the table. So thank you so much. It was great being with all of you, and I hope everyone was able to have a very enriching experience through this very engaging fire chat. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thanks a lot to all the panel members for sharing their thoughts. To do the honors, I would like to invite on the dais Ms. Alka Sharma from Origin Blue.